Okay, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Looks like we are live, I believe. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Syya Yasotornrat.
And I'm Erin Gregor.
And we are the co-hosts of the Afterglow LinkedIn Live Recap podcast. We are also the Dallas co-chairs of Global Leaders Organization, and we are the co-founders of Innovation Media Enterprises. Woo! Our titles keep growing longer, Erin.
Well, I was going to say you forgot co-host of Innovation Calling podcast, but I don't know where we want to draw a line.
Heck, why not? And we co-host Innovation Calling. So, question is I got was Afterglow. It's a live LinkedIn recap podcast. What does that mean? Basically, we discuss the Global Leaders Organization speaker series, and we highlight valuable concepts, action items, food for thought that these amazing speakers that GLO curates for us. So basically to help this business organization leaders on our entrepreneurial and leadership paths. So every time there is a speaker series, we will invite a GLO member to join us. And today we are super thrilled to invite and welcome Mr. Egbert Lim. Egbert, welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Excellent. So, Egbert, real quick, tell us about yourself. What is your history in business and leadership?
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Egbert Lim. For business, well, I started when I was pretty young. So while I was still in doing my college, I explored the realm of entrepreneurship while everybody is partying. Well, of course, I can't miss out the party too. But that's when I started venturing into entrepreneurship. Started approximately about 9 different businesses in the food and beverage, design, construction, and consulting industry, where I focus a little bit more on business innovation and cultural innovation. And while I was doing that, in between time, so I got recruited into a company while I was doing my entrepreneurship stint, just because they found out that I spoke 5 different languages. So they recruited me into a global consulting company where I help private equity-backed corporations create a presence in the United States, and specifically helping APAC regions, organizations, and corporations doing some of those work. So my leadership style is a combination of actually servant leadership, strengths-based, and 360 leadership. So I'm glad I had the opportunity to have exposure to some of those. And just because of the global culture, I feel like it always works out with a combination of various advantage from each leadership aspects. So I've led global PMOs where I initiated multiple cultural initiatives, international initiatives, and helped people connect in a much more efficient way.
Got it. Very cool. So you just said something that, Erin, I know you and I are going to be envious of. Did you say you speak 5 languages?
Yes, I do.
What languages are they? We need to know.
Sure. It's Mandarin, Cantonese, Thai, Malay, English. So as crazy as I am, I'm working on Spanish and Korean right now. So
Does language come easy for you?
not really, but I do have a secret to it.
What is it?
Which is my passion for music. So that's actually my secret to actually acquiring some of all these languages. So I found a way to integrate music with language learning. And how I do that is by learning the lyrics, find songs that I like, and start to memorize them. And I come back and decipher the lyrics after 60% of fluency in the lyrics of the song. And that helps me remember.
Erin, I'm laughing at this because Erin and I have very different taste in music. Could it be argued, depending on the genre of music that you're learning your English from, you could have a very different take on learning that language?
I would say it makes sense, but I listen to all genres, so yeah, I do rap too, so it's weird, but people wouldn't expect that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, no, I won't ask you to do a demonstration now. We'll keep it professional.
Definitely.
Maybe next time at a future Dallas Glow event, maybe we'll have like a talent night or something like that. So on that note, we had this week Connie Podesta. She is a Hall of Fame speaker, award-winning author, just an amazing woman altogether. She's a comedian. She finds herself some very amusing jokes. I guess, she's a Hall of Fame speaker, so she's done this like over 2 million people, thousands of events. I thought this would be an interesting discussion this week because this was all virtual. Erin, you've hosted your Entrepreneur Summit where it's a live event and you have speakers live. And then obviously with our business with Innovation Media, we produce podcasts. And so it's, two different mediums and forms of communication. Do you see a difference in speakers being able to translate their content between these two different, paths of communication?
100%. You see a difference. So, well, you see some speakers really struggling with this, to be honest, because a lot of them, they live off the feedback, right? Like, are they engaging? Are they listening? Are they laughing? Like Connie was saying, what's so hard about a Zoom call is that sometimes you've got this delay of, I said a joke and you need that instant feedback in order to, you know what I mean? Like, did the joke work? Did it fall? And you're seeing some people do it well. We've seen a lot of GLO speakers via GLO. And I think, they're using Zoom as much as they possibly can to engage. I know Connie talked about polls and stuff, but I've seen polls work really well in Zoom to be able to get that instant feedback of who they're talking to and how can I direct this conversation to be relevant. But you've also seen some speakers really struggle with the fact that it's black hole-ish, right? Like you're talking and you're hoping they're listening. I know, I've done a lot of webinars and it can be really hard if you're not engaging and you're like, I hope they're getting it. I hope they like it. So you really have to make that extra effort to be talking, to be asking for feedback, to be listening, to be engaging in that chat room, which can be difficult if you're used to just going down one path, but it's definitely a different skill set.
It is. So Egbert, what did you think? Just an initial overall impression. I guess, what's your first main takeaway from Connie's discussion?
Well, actually, the pandemic helped amplify that effect a little bit more. Being live right there at the studio was the biggest amplification of it. Having interaction, having a real life, face-to-face interaction was the biggest thing after such a long time, everybody being stuck at home and things like that. So the feedback was direct, everything was fun, it was more interactive, and that was the biggest thing.
So to clarify, everyone, we did a very soft on-site local Dallas chapter meeting. We did social distance in this studio. So big props, Chef Crilly. Thank you so much for letting us live stream from your studio. But it was interesting because I actually on my phone was in the virtual meeting as well. Because I kind of wanted to see what the vibe was if I were to be watching us remotely. Because I think we got lucky. We got to see Connie. We got to see and feel, and you could see those subtle facial movements, in a live presentation versus something that's recorded over a video. I guess to some components, I feel like we were very privileged on that. Erin, when you were sitting there, what did you think as far as what was the first takeaway, I guess, that you got from Connie in that discussion?
Well, okay, before I answer that question, I just want to add too of, you mentioned about the Afterglow show and people, or what is it about? And I look at it like we discuss, we learn stuff, but I almost feel like it's, for lack of a better term, a way to create FOMO, right? Like, I wish I would have been there, or I wish I would have, what is this about? Like, and I thought it was like to Egbert's point too, of just being there in person. We got a very small group, a very intimate group, which was amazing. And it made it more special. And to be able to sit with her, like, we all like hung out afterwards, and and Jonathan just made a post too. Jonathan Anderson was there, and he said we haven't stopped talking about Connie, although she gave him and his friends a lot of crap. So I don't know what Jonathan is saying, but hopefully all good things. But she's a comedian. But anyway, it was just so special to be able to sit around that and ask her those questions. Like as soon as the camera went off, I asked a question. I know Egbert had questions too about that.
Yeah.
And to me, that was so special. But one of the key takeaways I took from yesterday was that we all know personality types. We all understand, but there are 4 personality types, and therefore there is not a one size fits all way to sell. There is not a one statement thing or one approach way that you can go into anything and be able to sell to everyone. And it's really important that you can pick out a few traits of watching someone. It's not making them, walking into a sales meeting and making somebody take a personality test so you know what you're doing. But it's truly about looking at, watching someone and seeing, okay, the triangles and the squares were pretty similar. Okay, so what's a key different thing between a square and a triangle? All right, that's probably, I'm going to err on the side of caution saying he's a square, right? And that's how I'm going to sell to him. And I think it's really important that we understand those and be able to communicate and work with our clients correctly.
So on that note, I did want to do this one thing. And Erin, you brought, I'm still talking about that as well. So everyone that's watching, and if you haven't attended it or those that did attend, you'll know exactly what I'm about to ask. Imagine this, okay? I'm going to give you some shapes. Don't worry about it. I'm just going to give you some shapes. So imagine in front of you a square. Then next to that, a triangle. Then next to that, a circle. And then next to that, a squiggly line. With your finger, left or right hand, doesn't matter. I'm going to count to 4. You draw one of those 4 shapes. Circle, triangle, square, and squiggly line. All ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, draw it. Okay. I love that. And that to me, as a presenter, that hooked me in. And it made me wonder, what the hell are you talking about? What is it you're driving at? And I think that's also applies to as a leader too, right? If you're going to be running a group or a team or organization, what's that hook and line that's going to draw everyone to pay attention to you at that point in time? If it's a message, if it's, something that a directive or reinforcement of a goal or a mission or a value. I thought that was really fascinating. So for those that are listening, if you guys want to type in, you're more than welcome to. What did you draw? And I see quite a few folks that attended the session, but you go ahead and write it in. I'd be really intrigued to see what everyone writes.
And then we're going to make some major judgments on you based on what you write. No, just kidding. But I know you can go to ConniePodesta.com, and if you scroll down, I should know this, but it's something about shapes. I saw it last night. I went to look on our website. So you can see what you are and learn about it. And it was pretty, mine was not spot on because I've got some therapy to go through to figure that one out. But what she was getting about, it was very spot on.
Yeah, no. So we won't go into massive detail because let's not take away the woman's content. But it was fascinating because, like you say, Erin, I immediately drew a circle, but I hesitated. And I think I overthought of it, right? When someone asks you questions like that, you just want to analyze and be like, what's this about? So in my head, I did a circle because I thought it was like circles are more shapeless. So I could be more amorphous to accommodate whatever I need to do in life. And I think in reality, I was doing like a squiggly circle, which
it was closing up somehow.
It was closing up some, but it was a squiggly. It was not a perfect circle. And at the time in the room, it was mostly circles, triangle, and square, but not one squiggly person. And so I, just for the sake of, so we can continue the conversation, I volunteered myself to be squiggly. So if you guys see that video, you'll see my face drop as she described squiggly, because I was like, oh wait, that's really more me than anything else. And I thought that was kind of a funny thing of like that self-realization. We talked about Joel Peterson yesterday. So Egbert, this is going to come back to you. When we saw Joel Peterson in his fireside chat a couple weeks ago, he said, as a leader, you need to understand your core values in order to establish that basis for in establishing that mission and goal that the team can now march towards together. Because if they know who your core values are and what you are, it's so much easier to lead because it's expected. You're a known entity, if you will. Knowing that with what Joel had said, and then adding on the knowing what shape you are, do you think it has helped you, hindered you, or will it help you as you continue on in your business path?
Well, I'm sure it will. I'm sure it definitely will. Well, one thing unique about it, it's that engagement. So my shape wasn't just an ordinary circle initially. So what came to my mind was a circle and a triangle on the top of the circle. So that was my biggest question because she didn't mention you can only pick one. So what was in my mind, the image that popped up was a circle and a triangle, a combination of both. And her explanation to that was fascinating, definitely. So definitely check out her website and to get more information about that. But it's very engaging and how Connie, as a therapist, is able to decipher so much more just by those shapes. And in conjunction with that, I agree. Once you know your core, once you know your values, the way you operate, and how you see things, I think it's a lot clearer moving forward. And you are able to articulate your method, not only your communication method, but also ways that you communicate with other people. And how would you like to receive feedback? So I think that breaks down a lot of barriers altogether just by combining these knowledges, and allows you to really facilitate your business and your initiative towards a very positive direction.
Yeah, and I'll just add, sorry, bless you, Syya. Sorry, I don't know Jared to speak to this, but I saw Jacob, Miles, and Danielle abroad talk. Danielle's a circle, Jacob's a triangle. Spot on. From what I know about you guys, 100% spot on. So like I said, visit ConniePodesta.com and go down there or scroll down. I know there's a shape assessment, and I'm telling you, it's spot on.
Well, so I'll say very, very high level. If you are a square or a triangle, tend to be process oriented and structured, much like a triangle. It's 3 points. The lines intersect, just like squares. It's predictable. Think of some that's a little bit less amorphous. That would be like a circle and a squiggly, tend to be more of less structured personality types. So if you're wondering. On that note, though, Egbert, if you don't mind, and this is not going to go prying too much, but when you had told her circle and triangle, she made a very acute observation. Did you want to share that on why you have that triangle circle?
Yeah, because this was off camera too. So go ahead.
This was off camera. Yeah.
Sure. So when I shared that question with her, she automatically mentioned that I probably had a strict parent, and I was accustomed to a very triangle style of process of growing up. So automatically, I'm still confined to some of those rules and regulation, but in reality, I'm more of a circle person. So when I had that image in my mind, so it's like overlapping, but I'm slowly trying to figure out how I balance those two and jump out to be really more of a circle, as I am. So
parents, I had a parent.
As you are a parent yourself, Erin.
Oh, and I'm doing a number on my kids, let me tell you. So yeah.
So just out of curiosity, what do you think your kids are?
Oh, that's a good question. My son is squiggly line, probably. No, because he's not like over the top. I don't know. There's some squiggly line to a circle. My daughter, probably a triangle. She's gonna CEO somebody someday.
She's a very thorough child for sure. I mean, she's smart, man. Yeah. So so when and it was, and I know Connie made it very clear, you guys, this is not an end all be all. If anything, this exercise was intended to be something more of like a, a fun food for thought activity, right? It's not like, there's like all those personality tests. They all have different angles as to what their priorities are. So take it with a grain of salt. Don't think, oh, I'm a squiggly line, so therefore that's how I am going to function in life. As with all personality tests, I think you have to do it over the course of your life. Depending on where you're at in your path of life, you will change and evolve, right? I mean, sorry, I'm laughing because my dogs are about to fight. I apologize. Okay.
We can't hear him if that helps.
Okay, I hear them moving. Okay, so let's talk about that in business. Right now, we're in the middle of this pandemic, right? And we're really trying to figure out a way to continuously pivot, stay the course because things are working out, not working out, whatever. Do you think now, in light of the teams that, the way she's putting in the light of the personalities or reinforcement of personalities, do you think now is a time?
Now we can hear him.
Okay. You think now is the time? Oh my God, you got them. I'm so sorry. Now is the time for, I'm going to mute myself. Hold on 2 seconds. You guys, do you think now's the time to pivot and look at each other's like personalities and re-swizzle how we're going to take our next steps?
So I can say, I think it is important to be able to assess people, right? But I think, here's the deal. I think it's important, pandemic or no pandemic. I think one of the things I did yesterday was I went to Connie's website just to learn more about it. I really enjoyed the speech. And so I went to her website to watch her swizzle reel and see what she's about. And one of the things that she talks about in her, other presentations, she didn't talk about it yesterday, was that so many times, we look at a sales failure because of X. And we fill in, like she was mentioning, it was the territory, it was the customer wasn't ready, it was to the cost, all this stuff. But in essence, what it always comes down to is us. Like there wasn't a connection, all of this. So we can say like pandemic is now more important than ever to do this, but I still think people are buying. And I think this is always important. You know what I mean? Like to be able to assess this and to be able to do this, because we can use these excuses that it's a pandemic and people aren't, but I will not say specifically who, but I will use a family member as an example who is eternally poor and broke, but when Invisalign comes into play, they can pull out, $3,000 out of thin air and make that happen. So, we always can find the money for things we find of value. And I think that's important to understand. And if we can learn how to sell correctly, we can make those sales happen and not say, well, it's a pandemic, nobody's buying, because they are. But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yes, I'd like to fill in on that. So, for example, iRefresh Wellness was originally started to promote molecular hydrogen therapy. And through this pandemic, so we started end of December, early January. And what happened? So the pandemic happened, and somehow we had to pivot a little bit. So we explored the option of providing quality PPEs in this whole duration of the pandemic. And we got so many connections in regards to sources that are, not from countries that are providing it at a defective rate. So we have really created that stream of connection from countries like Taiwan, Vietnam, and Philippines that given us really good and quality PPEs, because it's heartbreaking to just see frontline workers, healthcare workers not being able to be protected, to the best, of capabilities to proceed with what they do best, which is caring for all of us. And so that's what we pivot to in this duration, and we were pretty successful in helping out in many various ways.
That's really cool. I think what you're doing is, I think sometimes with business it's timing, right? And then being able to understand where there's value, and then of course having that, I don't want to call it altruistic, but having that mission, that higher level mission, really does help, I think, create that standout that Connie also referenced, right? And when she was talking about it, how we make ourselves stand out and how we can make our own businesses stand out. So what else? Is there any other thoughts that you guys have? Because we're starting to wrap up here in the last few minutes. So was there any other thing that you liked or didn't like maybe about her discussion?
Overall, I thought it was great. The other thing we didn't talk about that I want to make a point about was leadership and leading in a time like this, where she talked about, you know, many of us might be feeling sad. We might be feeling angry. We might be feeling all these things. And as a leader, it's not that you can't feel these things, but everyone is watching you, you know, and it doesn't have to deal with necessarily employees watching you. It could be your family watching you. It could be your, you know, your significant other, your kids, whatever. And it's really important that we are aware of this and we are cognizant of it, because people are watching. It's not that you have to hide and you can't be honest, but you have to approach communication. You know, she talked about communicating, and we're seeing that too, and not just leadership, but communicating in respectful manners and being able to lead of a place of just respectfulness and not letting emotions get the best of you.
I agree. That's great. So Egbert, any last thoughts, sir?
No, I'd like to share. Thank you for the opportunity to be on the Afterglow event. And if any one of you guys really need to have sources towards like protective gears and things like that, you could always reach out. And stay safe. Take care.
Awesome. Well, so on that note, my friend, if someone wants to get a hold of you and learn a little bit more about iRefresh Wellness, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, iRefreshWellness.com. That's a direct contact, or you can go to the GLO platform, which is awesome, where you can always reach out through the GLO platform as members, and or through my LinkedIn. That would be the quickest way. I'm always on LinkedIn. So.
All right. And it's Egbert, EGBERT LIM. And I just realized, Egbert, maybe we're related, because I just found out my real last name is Lim. We should talk about that sometime.
Definitely.
And on that note, so GLO, Global Leaders Organization, this is why we're doing this, is a business organization. It is designed for successful entrepreneurs and leaders that are looking to accelerate growth in their business. We have a really unique online platform for members only, where you can access not only all these recorded weekly, not weekly, but speaker series that GLO curates, but also there is a marketplace where we do encourage and strongly support each other's businesses, as well as the Deal Network, where we're looking for extended investments with one another, sponsorships, etc. And then what we have is the investment portal. And this is for those that are looking to acquire access to capital and guidance to determine whether you want to have access to capital or not. Erin, did I miss anything else as to why GLO is BADASS?
No, I mean, it's like you were saying, the 3 C's: content, capital, and community. That's what we're all about. And I'll just add to what you said. You know, it is I don't want to say it's similar, but think of organizations like a YPO, EO, but we are not a replacement to that. We are truly an enhancement. I mean, it's a very minimal annual fee. It's not to be replaced by those, but truly another organization where you can surround yourself with like-minded people, but and get access to those things that you truly need to grow your business.
Absolutely. So if you want to learn more, hit up Erin, Gregor, Syya, Yasotornrat. Say that 15 times fast. Love our time with Global Leaders Organization. Egbert, thank you so much for your time. Look forward to having you and talking to you again as a Dallas chapter member. And that's it. Wraps it up for another episode of the Afterglow LinkedIn Live Recap Podcast. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.